Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session of The Silver Age by Thomas Heywood, the sequel to The Golden Age, which we've previously had a first look at, the videos of which you'll find on our YouTube channel. Today, we will be encountering for the first time Act 1 through Act 2, Scene 3 of The Silver Age. For The Golden Age, we issued a content warning for sexual violence and general misogyny, and there was also quite a lot of other violence plus attempted infanticide. I've only glanced briefly at the scenes we're looking at today, but I think violence, sexual violence, casual misogyny, and I'm pretty sure I caught some casual racism too, will be on the cards again today, so please consider yourselves warned. Upsetting material is very likely. The title page for The Silver Age tells us the story includes the love of Jupiter to Alcmena, the birth of Hercules, and the rape of Proserpine, which you might consider an early modern content warning or just plain spoilers. So in The Golden Age, we got a version of some of the earliest world building of ancient Greek mythology filtered through the Roman poet Ovid and presented as if everyone in the story was not mythological, a god, monster, magically powered, but just an ordinary person in really ancient times, which made some of the sexual violence even worse. It was, roughly speaking, the story of how Cronus made a deal with his Titan brother and promised, in order to keep the peace between them, that he would murder all of his children. His wife and mother and a nursemaid conspired together to foil this and managed to spirit away Jupiter and all subsequent children of Cronus. So infanticide foiled, which all turned out rather well for Cronus because in a war, when he was deposed, actually he really needed his sons to appear and help him, which they promptly did. Also, Jupiter, let's say, I'm not entirely sure how to put this. Jupiter fell for everything female and got himself into their bed by hook or by crook, by seduction or outright rape, some of them really pretty graphic sounding to the modern ear. And he also made a very special friend of Ganymede, who he was fighting in the war. Crucial among these various seductions was that of Danaus, who was locked away in a tower by her father, but nevertheless, Zeus found his way in, knocked her up, and she was sent into exile, heavily pregnant by her father, and the rest kind of ensues. Have I missed any key points, guys, of what happened? Yes, Helen.
Jupiter married his sister.
Jupiter married his sister and immediately started lusting after somebody else. Yeah.
There's also Saturn. I mean, the importance of Saturn.
Right, whom I've called Cronus because I'm being an idiot.
Oh, I see. Right. Yeah, because he was sort of teaching everybody everything. Yeah.
Saturn was the one who wanted to kill all of his children and got foiled. That's about where we're at. So these are all ancient human kings and not gods. And our story continues. Today, we are joined by the usual eclectic and awesome company of volunteer readers. Reading today, Homer, who acts as our prologue and general kind of guide through the story. Homer, guard, gentleman, and Ganymede is...
That's me, Briony Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
And reading Andromeda and Alcmena is...
Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
Reading Danaus and the first Servingman.
Helen Good, a historian in Hull.
Reading Perseus.
My name is Lynn. I'm a teacher. I live in the Northwestern United States.
Reading Aurea and Jupiter.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Pretus and second Servingman.
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk in the east of England.
Reading Acrisius and the third Servingman.
Hi, Lois Potter in London.
And reading Bellerophon is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and as per usual, my middle name is Chaos. So,
And I'm Aliki Chapple, and I will be reading the stage directions and trying to manage the conversation to some extent. So, without further ado, The Silver Age by Thomas Heywood. We begin with a prologue. Enter Homer.
Since modern authors modern things have traced, searching our chronicles from end to end, and all known histories have long been graced, bootless it were on them our time to spend, to iterate tales oftentimes told o'er, or subjects handled by each common pen, in which even they that can but read no more, can point before we speak how, where, and when, we have no purpose. Homer, old and blind of eld, by the best judgments termed divine, that in his former labours found you pined, is come the ruder censures to refine, and to unlock the casket long time shut, of which none but the learned keep the key, where the rich jewel Posy was put, she that first searched the heavens, earth, air, and sea. We therefore beg that, since so many eyes and several judging wits must taste our style, the learned will grace, the ruder not despise, since we for their use compile. Why should not Homer, he that taught in Greece, unto this judging nation lend like skill, and into England bring that golden fleece, for which his country is renowned still? The golden past, the silver age begins, in Jupiter, whose son of Danae born, we first present, and how Acrisius' sins were punished for his cruelty and scorn, to where we left, and so proceed. Your favour still, for that must help at need.
Unless anyone has a burning desire to comment on that, I think we'll go straight into Act 1, Scene 1. Okay. Act 1, Scene 1, Alarum, enter with victory, King Pretus, Bellerophon bringing in King Acrisius prisoner, drum and colours.
Now, you that trusted your divine strength, the brazen tower that erst enclosed your child, stands at our grace a captive, and we now are Argos king, where thou usurped so late.
'Tis not thy power, King Pretus, but our rigor against my daughter and the prince her son, thus punished by the heavens, have made thee victor.
'Twas by thy valour, brave Bellerophon, that tookst Acrisius prisoner hand to hand.
the duty of a service and a servant I have expressed to Pretus.
By thy valour we reign sole king of Argos, where our brother has tyrannized, and now these brazen walls, built to immure a fair and innocent maid, shall be thine own jail. Give his legs the irons, till we determine farther of his death.
O Danae, when I, rude and pitiless, threw thee with thy young infant to the mercy of the rough billows in a mastless boat, I then incurred this vengeance. Jupiter, whose father in those blessed and happy days I scorned to be or rank him in my line, hath chastised me for my harsh cruelty.
We are Jove's rod, and we will execute the doom of heaven with all severity. Such mercy as thy guardian beldams had, who for the love of Danae felt the fire, thou shalt receive from us. Away with him!
Acrisius is led bound. Enter Queen Aurea.
Why doth King Pretus lead his brother bound, and keep a greater foe in liberty? This thou most unchaste Bellerophon, and canst thou blushless gaze me in the face, whom thou so lately didst attempt to force? or front the prince, thy master, with such impudence, whose reverend bed thou hast practised to defile?
Madam, my lord.
Hear not the adulterous tongue, who, though he had not power to charm mine ears, yet may enchant thine.
Beauteous Aurea, if thou canst prove by witness that rude practice, his life and tortures I'll commit to thee.
What greater witness than Queen Aurea's tears? Or why should I hate you, Bellerophon, that, save this practice, never did me wrong?
O woman, when thou art given up to sin and shameless lusts, what brazen impudence hardens thy brow?
Shall I have right of him?
Thou shalt. Yet let me tell my Aurea, this knight hath served me from his infancy, been a partner of my breast and secret thoughts. His sword hath been the guardian of my state, and by the virtue of his strong right hand, I am possessed of Argos. I could read thee a chronicle of his great services, fresh in my thoughts. Then give me leave to pause, ere I pronounce sad sentence of his death.
Grant me, my lord, but a few private words with this dissembling hypocrite. I'll tell him such instance of his heinous enterprise shall make him blush, and with effeminate tears publish his riotous wrongs against your bed.
We grant you privacy.
Near us, Bellerophon.
O woman, woman.
We are alone. Yet wilt thou grant me love? Put me in hope, and say the time may come, and my excuse to Pretus shall unsay these loud exclaims, and blanch this Ethiop scandal, as white as is thy native innocence. Love me, oh, love me, my Bellerophon. I sigh for thee, I mourn, I die for thee. Give me an answer swift and peremptory. Gain by thy grant life, thy denial death. Wilt thou take time and limit me some hope by pointing me an hour?
Never, oh never. First shall the sun god in the ocean quench the day's bright fire, and o'er the face of heaven spread everlasting darkness.
Say no more. Dog, devil, even before my husband's face, darest court me? Pretus, canst thou suffer this? Injurious traitor, thinkest thou my chaste innocence is to be moved with prayers or bribed by promises? Hath the king hired thee to corrupt his bed? Or is he of that slavish sufferance before his face to see me strumpeted? Pretus, by heaven and all the gods I vow to abjure thy presence and confine myself to lasting widowhood, unless with rigor thou chastise this false groom.
Bellerophon, thou hast presumed too much upon our love, and made too slight account of our high power, in which thy life or death is circumscribed.
My lord, I should transgress our subject's duty to lay the least gross imputation upon the queen, my beauteous sovereignness. And rather than to question her chaste virtues, I lay myself ope to the strictest doom. My service hath been yours, so shall my life. I yield it to you freely.
Aurea's tears contend with thy supposed innocence, and have the upper hand. To see thee die, my settled love will not endure, but worse than death can we doom thy insolence. Go hence in exile, and return no more upon thy knighthood, but expose thyself unto that monstrous beast of Sicily, called the Chimera. It hath a lion's head, goat's belly, and a poisonous dragon's train. Fight with that beast, whom hosts cannot withstand, and feed what armies cannot satisfy. My doom's irrevocable.
For all my service, a fair reward, but by my innocence, virtues, and all my honors attribute, that savage monster I will feed or foil, die by his jaws, or bring home honored spoil.
Yet thy body meets a better grave, and kill not me too, whom thy grant may save.
1,000 fierce chimeras first I'll feed, ere stain mine honor with that damned deed.
Again to tempt me hence, base traitor, fly, and, as thy guilt's meed, by that monster die.
Away with him! 'Tis our mild sufferance begets this impudence. Come, beauteous Aurea, thou shalt be full revenged. I know him honourable in this, and will perform that enterprise which in one death brings many. Let us now enjoy our conquests. He shall soon be dead, that with base sleight sought to corrupt our bed.
And exeunt. Right, so women, eh? The prologue brings us up to speed. The Silver Age succeeds the Golden. Acrisius, who had imprisoned his daughter Danaus, is punished for having sent her and her infant son out to sea in a boat without a mast by being conquered by his brother. His brother's champion, Bellerophon, is accused of rape by Aurea, attempted rape by Aurea, whom we know is lying because she says, "Oh, be my dude or I will accuse you again." And yeah, here we are. Any comments on this lovely little window onto the relations of the sexes? Helen?
No, but I would like to go back to our friend Homer. And I think it's quite interesting what he says he's doing here, that the Homeric myths, the whole Greek story, has been the province of the learned. But he, Homer, is going to bring it in English to the popular stage. And that's what this is all about. And to this judging nation, and into England, he's bringing that golden fleece, all these stories. And I think that's rather nice about the motive of the play and how it and an indication of how it might be received. It's a popular English version.
Lois?
Yeah, he also makes the point that the English chronicles have been done to death. I mean, everybody has already done a lot of plays based on them, so he's looking for new material. I think he also says that people seem to have liked the Golden Age, so he's moving on from that. So at least we have some evidence that that was a popular play.
Or at least that the writer thinks it was.
Well, yeah, but he probably wouldn't have the nerve to say so if it had been notoriously a failure.
Okay, how about the scene that followed there? Any thoughts about that?
Well, just that it would make it easier for people to read it if there were indications of which bits are supposed to be spoken loudly and which bits are confidential discussion.
Yeah, there's definitely a little whispered discussion and then, "Oh no, how dare you insult my honor? Please kiss me." Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alan.
I also am never sure with these whether the formatting of the script that we're dealing with does require a pause at the end of a line or not. It's the punctuation is less than helpful on occasion.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the nature of these scripts. Helen.
Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, is I believe the usual phrase for this. Or also it reminded me all the way through of Potiphar's wife.
Yeah.
Who, for those of you with a good religious upbringing, you will know that she played more or less the same trick on Joseph.
Yeah. Yeah, and the story turns up a lot. I mean, there's several examples in the Arcadia. I think almost every romance has some episode of some young man falsely accused. And of course, it's also the story of Phaedra and Hippolytus.
And Hippolytus, that's the one I was, that's the one I was thinking of. But...
Eric.
I was going to say that it's interesting how he doesn't just go, "I'm innocent." He kind of, I didn't do it. He just kind of goes, I mean, he has like, for all my innocence, honor, and so on and so forth, I'll come back and kill the chimera, but like he doesn't sort of talk directly about it. It's just interesting how he's like, okay, I'll go die now.
Well, it's quite interesting exactly what he says, actually. I should transgress a subject's duty to lay the least gross imputation upon the queen. I couldn't possibly suggest that the queen was a lustful liar. Therefore, Helen, was that your raised hand?
No,
Oh, no,
it was to say more or less the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, honor is getting in the way of his defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn.
I assume that that's supposed to make him seem even more honorable, that he's being falsely accused, but his duty forbids him to to say outright that he's being falsely accused. It's like, oh, what a guy.
Right?
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of Aurea, because as you said, she's starts off accusing Bellerophon, and then just in the middle, she suddenly changes and she's asking for him to love her. And what the character that I quite liked in the first few scenes was Pretus. I don't quite know what to make of his last speech, because he says that she'll be revenged in this. But that Bellerophon is honorable. So I'm getting the sense that Pretus doesn't quite believe Aurea.
That'd be really interesting to see later if this thread comes back up.
Yeah. I mean, he was honorable in everything except when carried away by lust.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the backstory to this scene is that she made advances to him, he rejected her, so then she accused him in order to try and force him.
That's what I read between the lines too.
Yeah. That this scene has quite a backstory.
Yeah. But it is interesting that the scene starts out, or that part of the scene starts out with Aurea's, the first thing we know is that she accuses Bellerophon of attempting to assault her. And I, for one, believed her. I mean, sort of given, everything that happened in the Golden Age, it's like, oh God, here we go again. So I was a little surprised when they did that little conversation on aside, when she's like, I'm in love with you and I'll retract my accusation if you become my lover. Basically, that took me by surprise a little bit. So it was an interesting dramaturgical choice to sort of spring that on us as the audience.
Yeah. Shall we move on to Act 1, Scene 2 and see what happens next?
Okay.
Cool. Okay. Enter Perseus, Andromeda, and Danaus.
There stay our swift and winged Pegasus, and on the flowers of this fair meadow graze. Thou, that first flewest out of the Gorgon's blood, whose head we, by Minerva's aid, pared off, and since have fixed it on our crystal shield. This head, that had the power to change to stone all that durst gaze upon it, and being placed here, retains the power to whom it is uncased, hath changed great Atlas to a mount so high that with his shoulders he sports the sky.
Perseus, great son of Jove and Danae, famous for your achievements through the world, Minerva's favorite, goddess of wisdom, and husband to the sweet Andromeda, whom you so late from the sea monster freed. And after so many deeds of fame and honor, shall we return to see our mother Danae?
Dear brother Danaus, the renowned issue of King Polonus, that in Naples reigns, where beauteous Danae is created queen, thither I'll bear the fair Andromeda to see our princely mother.
Royal Perseus, truly descended from the line of gods, since By the slaughter of that monstrous whale, you freed me from that rock where I was fixed, to be devoured and made the monster's prey, and after won me from 1,000 hands. By Phineus' arm that was my first betrothed. Ingrate were I your fellowship to shun, whom by the force of arms you twice have won.
Enter Bellerophon.
Towards Naples then. But soft, what knight is that so passionately deject? Let us salute him. Whence are you, gentle knight?
I am of Argos,
But your adventure?
the infernal monster called the Chimera, bred in Sicily.
Thou canst not stake thy life against such odds and not be generously derived. I, Perseus, the son of Jove and Danaus, offer thee assistance to this noble enterprise.
Are you the noble Perseus whom the world crowns with such praise and royal hardiness, famed for your winged steed and your Gorgon's shield, and for release of fair Andromeda?
We, Perseus, are, and this Andromeda, King Cepheus' daughter, rescued by our sword and the keen-edged harp.
Let me do you honors worthy your state, and tell such news withal as shall disturb the quiet of your thoughts. I am of Argos, where Acrisius reigned.
Our grandsire, and reigns still.
His brother Pretus hath cost him both of state and kingdom too, nor let Bellerophon himself belie. It was by virtue of this strong right arm which he hath thus requited to expose me unto this strange adventure. The full circumstance I shall relate at leisure.
Dares King Pretus depose Acrisius, knowing Perseus lives? Guide me, fair knight, unto the place, my place of birth, where the great king of Argos lives captive, that I may glaze my harp in the blood of tyrant Pretus.
I am sworn by oath to dare the rude Sicilian monster first, whom having slain, I'll guide you to the rescue of King Acrisius.
Thou hast fired our blood and startled all our spirits, Bellerophon. We'll mount our Pegasus and through the air bear thee unto the fell Chimera's den, and in the slaughter of that monstrous beast, assist thy valor. Thence to Argos fly, where by our sword the usurper must die.
We are proud of your assistance, and withal assured of conquest.
Fair Andromeda, Danaus shall be your guardian towards Argos, where, after this achievement, we will meet to give our grandsire freedom. Come, let's part, we through the air, you towards Darien Tower, where tragic ruined Pretus shall devour.
Okay, that was quite a lot of backstory delivered in that scene. Anyone want to reinterpret it for us? Helen?
Yeah, two characters telling each other the plot. It's a device that all playwrights sooner or later have to resort to. But it's interesting that by the quality of Bellerophon's quest, he's obviously a good egg. and Perseus, who had a plan, I'm not entirely sure what it was, has now decided he's got another plan. He's going to, and the thing that interests me is that, well, Perseus has no reason to love his grandfather, who quite honestly tried to murder him, and was brought up, I believe, at the court of Pretus, and owes a lot to Pretus and nothing to his grandfather. Immediately decides, oh, sorry, I got it wrong, haven't I? Come on, Greek myth.
I think he's been brought up at the court of the king of Naples, who is Danaus's father.
Right, so Pretus is Acrisius's brother?
Yes.
Okay, so Perseus is more aligned to Acrisius than Pretus, but nevertheless, it seems very strange to me that he immediately becomes Acrisius's champion, considering all things.
Well,
Okay.
I'm guessing that he considers himself Acrisius's heir, so nobody else has got any business deposing
Oh,
Acrisius.
right, there is that. Yeah, there is that.
Lynn?
Okay, so yeah, Aliki, that does justify Perseus's motivation a little bit, because I like how I'm surprised that he wants to come down on the side of the guy that sent him and his mom basically into the desert or at sea without I mean, right? Why would you defend that guy? But Bellerophon's behavior is a little weird too, where he comes and says, "I'm off to fight the Chimera for my boss, Pretus," and this guy that he runs into says, "Cool, we'll help you do that, but then I'm going to turn around and try to kill your boss." And Bellerophon's like, "Okay, like, there's nothing said about the fact that we're going to be friends now, but then we'll just turn to enemies later." It's just very odd.
Eric?
Basically, I read this as like a bromance in the making. So when Bellerophon goes, "Oh my God, you're Perseus!" It's very sort of, yeah, it's kind of.
I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah, pretty much.
Lois?
Yeah, just a couple of things I wondered about. One is, why does Perseus keep talking about himself as we? Is he a king? I mean, he certainly thinks he's extremely important. And then second, does he in fact go off on a winged horse at the end? I mean, he's saying, you'll take the low road, we'll take the high road, and he's got this winged horse there. So this would have been part of the spectacle of this play if they could do it.
Helen?
Yes, there's also the question of the well-known weapon of war, the harp.
Yes.
It's slightly odd.
Is this actually something else and has been misread as harp or misunderstood as harp or
Yeah.
mistranscribed as harp?
Maybe harpoon.
Yeah, or it's the sword named harp.
Yeah.
The way,
Possibly. I don't want to get too much into
Yeah.
particular words here, but if anybody's got the solution, we can certainly hear it.
Yeah.
Eric?
Harpoon, I like.
Just woke up.
Eric,
No,
then Briony.
I was just gonna say, sort of I find it interesting how he kind of goes, "Okay, fair Andromeda, Danaus shall be your, guardian," and there's a part of me going, "Are you making her walk? Is that the whole thing that you're doing, or is that like, we're gonna go off on a bromance adventure and you can just walk home?"
Typical Greek man.
Pretty much.
I got a little bit fixated by this harp as a weapon thing, and I just wondered whether or not it's perhaps because they're so sure that their cause is just, that perhaps they think that their killing in terms of that is some sort of artful musical thing. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, well, Lois?
Well, there are some myths about harps which are remarkably powerful. I mean, they usually raise the walls of a city, don't they? You play the harp and then the city just rises out of the ground. But that doesn't really explain how they could use it here.
Yeah, I think we'll have to flag that one for later research. Rachael?
Did anybody from Perseus band, did they ever go down to the underworld? And could it be like that? Because somebody just put in the chat something about Orpheus, that it's a, they just got a guy who plays music with them or something, and precursor to them jamming down to the underworld.
Possibly. I haven't heard any reason why you could conflate these two stories, but maybe. I don't know. I really like the very ancient Greek drama thing where Perseus has come on with Andromeda and Danaus and gone, Well, okay, flying horse grazing over there, killed the Gorgon, rescued the maiden from the mother monster. All that happened off stage. Let's relax now. Eric.
No, I was just, pretending to, he rolls a spliff and sort of, anyway, yeah, I'll just keep quiet.
Yeah. Okay. Act 1, Scene 3 then. Enter King Pretus and Queen Aurea.
Aurea, we were too hasty in our doom to lose that knight whose arm protected us, whose fame kept all our neighbouring kings in awe, nor was our state confirmed but in his life.
Let traitors perish and their plots decay, and we still by divine assistance sway.
But say some prince should plot Acrisius' rescue, invade great Argos, or siege Daraean tower. Then should we wish Bellerophon again, to oppose their fury and their pride restrain.
To cut off all these fears, cut off Acrisius, appear to him a brother full as merciless as he a cruel father to his child, the beauteous Danae and her infant son.
Only his ruin must secure our state, and he shall die to cut off future claim unto this populous kingdom we enjoy. Our guard, command our captive brother hither, whom we this day must sentence. O Bellerophon, thy wrong suspect, thy doom repent, since all thy acts proclaim thee innocent.
Enter Acrisius, brought in by the guard.
Behold the king, your brother.
We thus sentence thy life, Acrisius, thou that hadst the heart to thrust thy child into a mastless boat with a fair hopeful prince unto the fury and rage of the waves, to doom those innocent ladies to the fire that were her faultless guardians. The like sentence receive from us. We doom thee imminent death without delay or pause. Bear to the block the tyrant, he that could not use his reign with clemency, we thus his rage restrain.
Thou show'st thyself in rigour pitiful, and full of mercy thy cruelty, to take away that life which to enjoy were many deaths. Having my Danae lost with her son Perseus, having lost my kingdom, all through the vain fears of prophetic spells, why should I wish a wretched life to save, that may rest happy in a peaceful grave?
Flourish and a shout, enter a gentleman.
What shout is that?
Strange and admirable, Bellerophon and a brave strange knight, both crowned in blood in the Chimera's spoil, have cleft the air on a swift-winged steed, and in your court alighted, both their swords bathed in the serpent's blood, they brandish still, as if they yet some monster had to kill.
Bellerophon returned. Thou hast amazed us.
Enter Perseus, Danaus, and Bellerophon with Andromeda.
One monster than the rude Chimera more fell. That's Pretus, Danae's son must sent to hell.
Treason! Our God!
Perseus kills Pretus and Aurea and beats away the rest of the guard.
Lives there a man, the tyrant Pretus dead, saith that the crown shall not invest his head.
We all stand
for King Acrisius.
Then by this general suffrage once more reign, since by our hand the usurper here lies slain.
Our hopeless life and new invested state strike not so deep into Acrisius' joys as when he hears the name of Danae's son. Lives Danae?
Grandsire, thy fair daughter lives, a potent queen. We, Perseus, are her son. This, Danaus, your hopeful grandchild too. Nor let me quite forget Andromeda, by Perseus' sword freed from the great sea whale, and now engraft unto your royal line.
Divide my soul amongst you, and impart my life, my state, my kingdom, and my heart. Oh, had I Danae here my joys to fill, I truly then should be immortalized. Renowned Perseus, Danaus inly dear, and you, bright lady, fair Andromeda, you are to me a stronger fort of joy than Darane's brass, which no siege can destroy.
My grandsire's sight doth promise as much bliss as can Elysium, or those pleasant fields where the blessed souls inhabit.
You are to me as life on earth in death eternity.
Let none presume our purpose to control, for our decree is, like the doom of gods, fixed and unchanging. Perseus, we create great Argos king, crowned with this wreath of state.
With like applause and suffrage shall be seen the fair Andromeda, crowned Argos queen.
Only the Darane tower I still reserve, in that to penance me a life retired. And I in that shall prove the oracle. Fair Danae's son, instated in my throne, shall thus confine me to an arch of stone. There will I live attended by my guard, and leave to thee the manage of my realm. Our will is law, which none that bears us well will strive by word or action to refel.
The gods' behest with your resolve agree, to increase in us this growing majesty. Bellerophon, we make thee next ourself of state in Argos. Danaus, you shall hence to cheer our mother in these glad reports, and to succeed Polonus. But first stay, rights due to us, ere we the state can sway.
Okay, quite a lot happened in that little scene. Anyone got a recap?
So I guess Bellerophon decides that he's on Perseus's side and is turning against Pretus, who it wouldn't have been that hard to put in a little motivation. It's like, well, Pretus's wife wrongly accused me of sexual assault, so yeah, I'll be on your side because he tried to get me killed, and that was unjust, so I'll turn against him. But you don't get any motivation for Bellerophon.
Well, he did say in the earlier scene that he might say a bit more off stage. Heywood does seem to be trying to do something a bit like Greek tragedy. People keep coming on and telling us what they did before this scene, and he's jumping over vast tracts of time. Partly using Homer. It's a funny technique, really. Attempting. I suppose he is attempting to tell us a lot of stories, which are kind of separate stories anyway, and then giving us a bit of linking between them, but not very much. It is quite startling to have two, what we thought were going to be major characters, polished off so quickly.
In one line of stage direction.
Yeah.
Helen.
Yeah, he doesn't even give poor old Pretus or Aurea chance to say, oh, I repent me of my sins. Oh, he has killed me. They're just punk. Yep. Right, short part.
Yeah, right.
Go backstage, get changed. You're on in a minute as a serving man.
Yeah.
I don't know the story of Bellerophon well enough to know if he did that.
He and Perseus seems to have had no trouble at all killing the chimera.
Right. Arrived, two young men on a winged horse, bloody swords covered in blood. Oops, you're dead.
Yeah. Yep. We don't see the chimera episode, which is probably what the audience was really waiting for.
Well, gobbets of it, or even a head might be dumped on the stage as he comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the budget didn't stretch to full chimeras. Eric.
What I was going to say is that as far as I know, the only thing they have in common is sort of possibly ancestry and sharing Pegasus. So that's about it. As far as I remember, I don't know if, they actually ally themselves.
Yeah, I think it's the Pegasus sharing that has allowed Heywood to link them together. Like, well, they both flew around on Pegasus. Why don't they fly around together?
Two little boys.
I was thinking of that, yes.
And in the modern edition, it's a motorbike, sort of.
With wings painted on the side.
Like a Vespa?
Flying motorbike.
But I mean, someone said in chat, who is it? It's Alan, that it could be another one for the list of horses on stage.
Yeah.
But it isn't, obviously Heywood wasn't doing it. Maybe there were some noises off.
Okay, shall we proceed to the entr'acte? Okay, enter Homer.
Alack, earth's joys are but short-lived, and last but like a puff of breath, which thus is past. Acrisius in his fortress lives retired, kept with a strong guard. Perseus reigns sole king, who in himself one sad night long desired to see his grandsire some glad news to bring, whom the stern warders in the night unknown seek to keep back, whence all his grief is grown.
A dumb show. Enter 6 warders, to them Perseus, Danaus, Bellerophon, and Andromeda. Perseus takes his leave of them to go towards the tower. The warders repulse him. He draws his sword. In the tumult enter Acrisius to pacify them, and in the hurly-burly is slain by Perseus, who laments his death. To them, Bellerophon and the rest, Perseus makes Bellerophon king of Argos, and with Danaus and Andromeda departs. Homer and
Perseus, repulsed by the sturdy warder, strikes. This breeds a tumult. Out their weapons fly. Acrisius hears their clamours and their shrikes, and down descends this brawl to pacify, not knowing whence it grows, and in this brawl Acrisius by his grandchild's hand doth fall. The oracle's fulfilled, he's turned to stone, that's to his marble grave by Danae's son, which in the prince breeds such lament and moan, that longer there to reign he'll not be won. But first Bellerophon he will invest, and after makes his travels towards the east. Of Jupiter now deified and made supreme of all the gods, we next proceed. Your suppositions now must lend us aid, that he can all things as a god indeed. Our scene is Thebes. Here fair Alcmena dwells. Her husband in his warfare thrives abroad, and by his chivalry his foes expels. He, absent, now descends the Olympic god, enamoured of Alcmena, and transhapes himself into her husband Ganymede. He makes assistant in his amorous rates, whilst he prefers the earth for Juno's bed. Lend us your wonted patience without scorn, to find how Hercules was got and born.
Enter Amphitrio with 2 captains and Socia with drum and colours. He brings in the head of a crowned king, swears the lords to the obeisance of Thebes. They present him with a standing bull, which he locks in a casket. And sending his man with a letter before to his wife with news of his victory, he, with his followers and Blepharo, the master of the ship, marcheth after.
Creon, that now reigns here the Theban king, Alcmena's husband, great Amphitero, made his general, who to his lord doth bring his enemy's head that did his land invade. Think him returning home, but sends before by letters to acquaint his beauteous wife of his success. Himself, in sight of shore, must land this night, where many a doubtful strife amongst them grows. But Jove himself descends, cuts off my speech, and here my chorus ends.
Wow. Okay, that was quite a lot of plot there in speech and dumb show. Slightly reminiscent of a montage in a TV series. Yeah. Telling you not quite what happened before, but what happened in between. Can anyone make any sense of it? Helen.
Jupiter is now a god.
Yay!
Which is a change. I think that the dumb show would be happening while Perseus is speaking, so that the two go together.
While Homer is speaking.
Sorry. Yeah. Definitely while Homer is speaking. But so they finished off the Perseus story, and we're now into the conception of Hercules' story. Hercules here, isn't it? And what I liked about this is how tremendously rhymed and end-stopped Homer's verses. I mean, it's the exact opposite of what other people have been complaining of. Alan's particularly has been complaining of, because it's, I imagine, I mean, Briony will say, it's really easy to read.
Yeah.
And different from the dialogues.
Yeah, it's rather nice. I quite like it.
I think it kind of lends itself to that storyteller kind of feel.
It does have a really compelling rhythm to it and a simplicity to it that we don't often find. But having compared things to TV shows already, I'm just going to insist here, because the way that Heywood is picking people out of different bits of mythology and sticking them together reminds me a bit of things like, the TV show Penny Dreadful, or what's that Dickens one called, Dickensian, where they've taken characters from many different books and found ways to link their stories together.
A lot happens.
A lot happens.
In
Briony.
this scene.
Yeah. Elizabeth, would you tell us what happened in a second? But I'm going to call on Briony first.
I was just going to say, in terms of what you were saying about TV and like the modern references with it, Marvel and DC have made whole universes that are very loosely based on mythology, and all that. So yeah, it's definitely a doable thing.
Yeah, I agree. Elizabeth, what happened? Can you summarize it for us? Because it was quite a lot.
I can't summarize it.
Oh, come on. Can we all summarize it together, please? Because I want to know what happened. So Perseus accidentally killed his grandfather. That's one episode.
Yeah, that was the one that I was really kind of focused on. Like, Perseus seems to be very trigger happy. Somehow in the hurly-burly, after he's killed Pretus and Aurea, he's now killed his grandfather. He's killed Acrisius, and then he's lamenting his death. And then, yes.
Well, it's such a stupid mistake. I mean, as far as I can make out, Acrisius has all these guards who aren't supposed to be letting anyone in. Perseus comes there and they refuse to let him in. Why doesn't he explain things? I mean, they don't know who he is, apparently, according to Homer. So naturally, they reject him. So he proceeds to kill them all. Then Acrisius comes down to try to calm things down and gets killed as well. So then, of course, Perseus is upset. So he makes Bellerophon the king. And then he leaves, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Briony and Eric?
Also, I was going to address the bit afterwards that we're avoiding a little bit, where I presume Jupiter disguises himself as someone's husband so that he can go and rape her.
Yeah. I think that's coming up. Yeah.
I mean, it was described. It's in Homer's speech. Eric?
I was just going to say that Perseus probably turns up at the gate going, "Do you not know who I am?" Or something
I mean,
equivalent.
He is currently king of the place, so it doesn't seem entirely unjustified.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And so basically now we have moved to Thebes, where Alcmena in this version is waiting for her husband to come home, which is very, very Arthurian legendy kind of thing.
The husband in question being Creon, right?
No,
Amphitryon.
Amphitryon. Okay.
Who is Creon's general?
Who's Creon's general? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, they call him Amphitrio, not Amphitryon.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I
Right.
know him as Amphitryon.
Okay. And now arrives Zeus, we presume. Right.
And we've now got a real problem because we've got two people who will look like Amphitryon, but one of them's actually Jupiter. And we've got Socia, we got two of them. Well, but one of them's Ganymede in disguise.
Okay. So Jupiter disguised as Amphitrio has Ganymede disguised as Socia with him. And now also got it. Okay.
But the thing is, are we using masks? Are we using blind luck? Are we sort of going, guess what? I look like Amphitrio. And also have fun remembering who's which.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Masks, I guess. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do they have
Awakened
to?
crown? Sorry, Lois, I keep interrupting.
Oh, do they have to appear in the same scene? Because if they don't, you can have a real tour de force with the same actor coming on. I'm Amphitryon. Hello, I'm Jupiter.
Right.
We shall see.
Yeah.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Act 2, Scene 1. Thunder and lightning. Jupiter descends in a cloud.
Earth before heaven we once more have preferred, beauty that works into the hearts of gods, as it hath power to mad the thoughts of men, so even in us it hath attraction, the fair Alcmena, like the seaman's star, shooting her glistering beauty up to heaven, hath pulled from thence the Olympic Jupiter, by virtue of her rays. Let Juno scold, and with her clamours fill the ears of heaven. Let her be like a bacchanal in rage, and through our crystal palace breath exclaims. With her quick feet the galaxy aware, and with inquisitive voice search through the spheres. She shall not find us here, or should she see us, can she distinguish us, being thus trans-shaped? Where's Ganymede? We sent him to survey Amphitryo's palace, where we mean to lodge.
Enter Ganymede, shaped like Socia.
In happy time returned. Now, Socia?
Indeed, that's my name, as sure as yours is Amphitrio.
3 nights I have put in one to take our fill of dalliance with this beauteous Theban dame. A powerful charm is cast o'er Phoebus' eyes, who sleeps this night within the Euxine sea. Until the 3rd day shall forget his charge to mount the golden chariot of the sun. The Antipodes to us shall have a day of 3 days' length. Now, at this hour is fought by Joshua, Duke unto the Hebrew nation, who are indeed the Antipodes to us. His famous battle against the Canaanites, and at his horizon the sun stands still, that he may have their slaughter. Ganymede, go, knock, and get us entrance.
Exit Jupiter.
Before I knock, let me a little determine with myself. If I be accessory to Jupiter in his amorous purpose, I am little better than a parcel-gilt board, but must excuse myself thus. Ganymede is now not Ganymede, and if this imputation be put upon me, let it light upon Socia, whom I am now to personate. But I am too long in the prologue of this merry play we are to act. I will knock, and the servingmen shall enter.
Who knocks so late?
He that must in, open for Socia, who brings you news home of the Theban wars.
Enter 3 servingmen.
Socia returned?
Unhurt? Unslain?
Even as you see, and how?
Socia, let me have an armful of thee.
Armfuls and handfuls too, my boys.
The news? The news! How doth my lord Amphitrio?
Nay, how doth my lady Alcmena? Some of you carry her word, my lord. My lord will be here presently.
I'll be the messenger of these glad news.
I'll have a hand in it too.
I'll not be lost.
Exeunt servingmen.
They are gone to inform their lady, who will be ready to entertain a counterfeit lord. Jupiter is preparing himself to meet Alcmena. Alcmena, she to encounter Jupiter. Her beauty hath enchanted him. His metamorphosis must beguile her. All's put to proof. I'll in to furnish my lord, whilst my fellow servants attend their lady. They come.
Okay, that's a lot. So I'm disguised as Socia, therefore anything harmful that I do isn't really my fault, it's his fault. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Eric.
Yeah, it's very sort of low-key reasoning. I mean, Loki is in the god, not like Loki is in like low-key. Yeah, it seems very sort of, yeah, it's not my fault. And of course, you can't blame me.
Briony, then Lois.
I'm just wondering how much room would he have to argue with a god anyway? Is it one of these situations like whereby we've had a king fancy somebody's wife and they're in that situation where it's like, well, it's my wife and I really don't want this to happen, but I can't do anything?
Lois?
Yeah, I was fascinated by the way Heywood's combining 2 different mythologies. I mean, the Joshua getting the sun to stand still and Jupiter getting 3 nights put into one so he can have a really long time with Alcmena. That must have been done by other people as well. I can't believe he made this up, but it's extremely interesting.
It really is, isn't it? Meanwhile, in another tradition.
Yeah.
Helen.
Yes, you've got to remember that this is myth and the other tradition is true.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
As far as Heywood is concerned. I do like the geography, though. They know that there are antipodes because they know the earth is round. I mean, they've known this since the time of the Greeks. But they don't know how big it is. So they think that Palestine is the antipodes to, where are they? Thebes? Nah, actually, they're probably mentally, they're thinking London and Jerusalem are on opposite ends of the earth.
Yeah.
Which even that is not true, never mind.
Well, of course not, but
and then Jericho are.
Yeah. And what's also odd is that it kind of implies that Jupiter's version is the right one. I mean, that, I'm the one that's doing this, but meanwhile, over there in Palestine, Joshua thinks he's made the sun stand still.
Yeah, Lynn.
Yeah, the fact that in the culture in which this text was produced, the biblical story was considered historic, and the Greek stories were considered stories, and that makes it even weirder that he's decided to make these things happening at the same time in the world of the play. It's pretty weird.
I also, sorry, Eric, I'll get to you in a second. I just want to point out this lovely little scene with the Servingman and the false Socia. Let me have an armful of thee. They're so pleased to see him back from the battle and unharmed, and it's suddenly very kind of vivid and normal compared to everything else. Eric.
I was just going to say, when Ganymede said, indeed, that's my name, as sure as yours is Amphitrio, you kind of like, I thought that there was going to be, this very sort of stereotypical sort of clown thing that they do where they kind of go, yeah, of course that's your name. That's totally the right name. That's totally, yes. Your name is not Jupiter. Where you kind of think that, well, at least I thought that's where it was going to go, but apparently not.
Nope. Any further thoughts before we moved on to Act 2, Scene 2? Okay. Act 2, Scene 2. Enter at one door, Alcmena, Thessala, 4 serving men. At the other, Jupiter, shaped like Amphitrio, to Ganymede.
But are you sure you spake with Socia? And did he tell you of Amphitrio's health?
Madam, I assure you we spake with Socia, and my lord Amphitrio will be here instantly.
Usher me in a costly banquet straight to entertain my lord. Let all the windows glister with lights like stars, cast sweet perfumes to breathe to heaven their odoriferous airs, to tell the gods my husband's safe returned. If you be sure 'twas Socia.
Madam, take my life if it be not true.
Then praise be to the highest Jupiter, whose powerful arm gave strength unto my lord to work his safety through these dangerous wars. Hang with our richest works our chambers round, and let the room wherein we rest tonight flow with no less delight than Juno's bed, when in her arms she claspeth Jupiter.
I'll fill thy bed with more delightful sweets than when with Mars the Cyprian Venus meets.
See how you stir for odors, lights, choice cakes, spices, and wines. Is not Amphitrio coming with honor from the wars? Where's your attendance? Sweet waters, costly ointments, precious baths, let me have all for taste, touch, smell, and sight. All his 5 senses we will feast this night.
'Tis time to appear. Alcmena?
My dear lord!
It works. Now for Juno to set a scold between them.
A banquet brought in.
Oh, may these arms that guarded Thebes and us be ever thus my gird, that in them I may live ever safe. Welcome, Amphitrio, a banquet, lights, attendants. Good my lord, tell me your war's discourse.
Sit, fair Alcmena.
Proceed, my dearest love.
I, as great general to the Theban king, march against the Teleboans, who make head and offer us encounter. Both our armies are cast in form, well-fronted, sleeved, and winged. We throw our vows to heaven, the trumpet sound, the battle signal. Now begin the incursions. The earth beneath our armed burdens groans. Shots from each side reverberate against heaven. With arrows and with darts, the air grows dark, and now confusion ruffles. Hear the shouts of victors sound. There groans of death are heard. Slaughter on all sides. Still, our eminent hand towers in the air a victor, whilst the enemy have their despoiled helmets crowned in dust. We stand, they fall, yet still King Ptelera strives to make head, and with a fresh supply takes up the midfield. Him Amphitrio fonts with equal arms. We, the 2 generals, fight hand to hand. But Jove omnipotent gave me his life and head, which we tomorrow must give to King Creon.
All my orisons, fought on your side, and with their powerful weight added unto the ponder of your sword to make it heavy on the burgonet of slaughtered Petellera.
I for my reward had by the subjects of that conquered king a golden cup presented, the choice bowl in which the slaughtered tyrant used to quaff. Socia.
My lord?
The cup. See, fair Alcmena?
This cup Mercury stole out of Amphitryo's casket, but all's one as long as it is truly delivered.
In this rich bowl I'll only quaff your health, or use when to the gods I sacrifice. Is our chamber ready?
Gladly I'd to bed, where I will mix with kisses my discourse, and tell the whole project.
Mirth abound. Through all these golden roofs let music sound to charm my lord to soft and downy rest.
Come, light us to our sheets.
Amphitryo's head shall here be pillowed. Lights, then, and to bed.
Exeunt with torches, leaving Ganymede alone on stage.
Alas, poor Amphitrio, I pity thee, that art to be made cuckold against thy wife's will. She is honest in her worst dishonesty, and chaste in the superlative degree of inchastity. But I am set here to keep the gate. Now to my office.
Enter Socia with a letter.
Here's a night of nights. I think the moon stands still and all the stars are asleep. He that drives Charles Wade is taking a nap in his cart, for they are all at a stand. This night hath been as long as 2 nights already. I think 'tis now entering a 3rd. I'm glad yet that out of this utter darkness I am come to see lights in my lady's palace. There will be simple news for her when I tell her my lord is coming home.
'Tis Socia and Amphitryo's man, set before to tell his lady of her husband. I must prevent him.
This night will never have an end, and he that hath hired a wench to lie with him all night hath time enough, I think, to take his pennyworths. But I'll knock.
I'll charge thee not to knock here, lest thou be knocked.
What, not at my master's gate?
I charge thee once more. Tell me whose thou art, whither thou goest, and wherefore thou comest.
Hither I go, I serve my master, and I come to speak with my lady. What art thou the wiser? Nay, if thou beest a good fellow, let me pass by thee.
Whom dost thou serve?
I serve my lord Amphitrio, and am sent in haste to my lady Alcmena.
Thy name?
Socia.
Base counterfeit, take that! Can you not be content to come sneaking to one's house in the night to rob it, but you must likewise rob me of my name?
Thy name? What's thy name?
Socia.
Socia, and whom dost thou serve?
My lord Amphitrio, chief of the Theban legions, and my lady Alcmena. But what's that to thee?
That's a good jest. But do you hear, if you be Socia, my lord Amphitryo's man and my lady Alcmena's, where dost thou lie?
Where do I lie? Why, in the porter's lodge.
You are deceived. You lie in your throat. There's but one Socia belongs to this house, and that am I.
Lie, slave, and wilt thou outface me from my name? I'll use thee like thyself, a counterfeit.
Eats him.
What art thou? Speak.
I cannot tell.
Whom dost thou serve?
The time.
Thy name?
Nothing.
Thy business?
To be beaten.
And what am I?
What you will.
Am not I Socia?
If you be not, when you were so to be beaten in my place.
I knew my lord had no servant of that name but me.
Shall I speak a few cool words and bar buffeting?
Speak freely.
You will not strike.
Say on.
I am the party you wot of. I am Socia. You may strike if you will, but in beating me, if you be Socia, I assure you, you shall but beat yourself.
The fellow's mad.
And am I not newly landed, sent hither by my master? Is this not our house? Do I not speak? Am I not awake? Am I not newly beaten? Do I not feel it still? And shall I doubt I am not myself? Come all in and do my mess.
Sirrah, I have endured you with much impatience. Wilt thou make me believe I am not Socia? Was not our ship launched out of the Persic haven? Did I not land this night? Have we not won the town where King Ptolemy reigned? Have we not overthrown the Teleboans? Did not my lord Amphitrio kill the king hand to hand? And did he not send me this night with a letter to certify my lady Alcmena of all these news?
I begin to mistrust myself. All this is as true as if I had told it myself, but I'll try him farther. What did the Teleboans present my lord with after the victory?
With a golden cup, in which the king himself used to quaff.
Where did I put it?
That I know not, but I put it into a casket, signed by my lord's signet.
And what's the signet?
The sun rising from the east in his chariot. But do you come to undermine me, you slave?
I must go seek some other name. I'm half hanged already, for my good name is lost. Once more resolve me. If thou canst tell me what I did alone, I will resign thee my name. If thou beest Socia, when the battles began to join, as soon as they began to skirmish, what didst thou?
As soon as they began to fight, I began to run.
Whither?
Into my lord's tent, and there hid me under a bed.
I am gone. Somebody, for charity's sake, either lend me or give me a name, for I have lost by the way. And now I look better on he, me, or I, he, as he hath got my name, he hath got my shape, countenance, stature, and everything go right, that he can be no other than I, my own self. But when I think that I am I, the same I ever was, know my master, his house, that have sense, feeling, and understanding, know my message, my business, why should I not in to deliver my letter to my lady?
That letter is delivered by my hand. My lady knows all, and expects her lord, and I, her servant, Socia, am set here to keep such idle rascals from the gate. Then leave me, and by fair means, or I'll send thee legless or armless hence.
Nay, thou hast brought me up enough already. I would be loath to lose my name and limb both in one night. Where have I miscarried? Where been changed? Did I not leave myself behind in the ship when I came away? I'll even back to my master and see if he know me. If he know me, if he call me Socia and will bear me out in it, I'll come back and do my message, spite of him says nay. Farewell, self.
And exit Socia.
This obstacle, the father of more troubles, I have put off, and kept him from disturbance in their adulterate pastimes. Fair Alcmena is great already by Amphitrio, and near her time, and if she prove by Jupiter, he by his power and godhood will contract both births in one, to make her throes the less. And at one instant she shall child two issues, begot by Jove and by Amphitrio. The house by this, long charmed by Hermes' rod, are stirring, and Jove, glutted with delights, ready to take his leave, thorough satiate with amorous dalliance. Partings not so sweet between our lovers as when first they meet.
Wow. Well, that was a fabulous little clown scene there, quite a long clown scene with a heck of a lot of opportunity, especially for the clown playing Socia, who has some delicious lines and reactions. But yeah, sorry, I'll shut up now. Any thoughts from the two, from Ganymede and Socia? Oh, Lynn first, yeah.
I was just thinking in the first few scenes of this that it's not very this play isn't very dramatic. We just have people talking and the actual interesting stuff happens off stage. And then there's these two scenes, which are very interesting in terms of their acting potential. The first part of this is really heartbreaking in a way. It's really sort of emotionally wrenching that Alcmena is so excited to see her husband. She's so relieved that he's alive. She clearly loves him and is looking forward to making love with him and seeing him again. And it's not him. It's this guy disguised as him. And that's just kind of heartbreaking that she has this genuine love for him. And as Ganymede says, that she's chaste, she's faithful, but not. So, that's a really interesting scene dramatically. And then by contrast, this really kind of funny who's who, the sort of twins that don't know they're twins thing that we can't actually say what scene this reminds us of, but it is pretty funny. So like really stageable stuff here all of a sudden.
What I find funniest is that Ganymede, who knows perfectly well who he isn't, manages to persuade Socia that he is not.
You're not you. I'm you.
Briony.
The absolute stones of it. If you were in that situation and the person you were impersonating walked up to you, who in their right mind would just go carry on with it and say, no, I am. No, it's definitely me. In the face of the actual person you're like pretending to be. That's insanity. But the other thing that I found really interesting in that was this idea that she's already pregnant and fairly close to term, and she might end up having twins now because of all this. That was a really interesting way to go with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Greek mythology knowers will know where this story is heading, but Helen.
Yeah, this is the Heywood that we have been looking for what seems like a long time. Because Heywood can write the most amazing scenes, and here he's just done it. When Socia says at the end, "Goodbye, self," and he's so practical. I'm going back to my master, and if he knows who I am, then I'll be back.
Lois.
Yeah, it is a great scene, but this whole plot comes from Plautus's Amphitryon, and it was incredibly popular. Molière did a version of it, and there's another version by Dryden. And in fact, in the 1930s, Jean Giraudoux, a very good French playwright, wrote a play called Amphitryon 38, Amphitryon 38, because he'd worked out that this was a 38th version of the story.
Eric.
That scene was just fun. I just like how Ganymede goes, "I'll send you the legless or armless hence," and there's a part of me going, is he going to get him drunk? But then it just sort of, no, it's fine. I'll go now. I'm scared. But I don't know. It's just very sort of. There are some good lines in there. Yeah,
there are some fabulous lines in there.
Yeah.
And what he did during the battle.
Yeah.
Expected, yes.
Yep. Okay, let's move.
You've got Alan.
Oh, Alan, I'm sorry, Alan.
Yeah, I was listening to that scene with an incredible sense of deja vu, because a couple of weeks ago, Rob asked me to look at a script which was an OCR in need of attention, called The Birth of Hercules. And there were many lines in there that I recognised pretty well verbatim. So I have a feeling that this is Heywood again. It wasn't nailed down firmly enough by somebody else. He's had it. which I think we found him doing before.
Okay.
Yeah, we've also seen it in other plays. Like I think it was What You Will or something, where someone disguised themselves as one of the main characters, and then they ended up, in the final scene, having a breakdown.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the final scene we're looking at today, Act 2, Scene 3. Enter Jupiter, Alcmena, and the servants.
My dearest love, farewell. We generals cannot be absent from our charges long. I stole from the army to repose with thee, and must before the sun mount to his chariot, be there again.
My lord, you come at midnight, and you make haste, too, to be gone ere morn. You rise before your bed, be thoroughly warm.
Fairest of our Theban dames, accuse me not. I left the charge of soldiers to report the fortune of our battles first to thee, which should the camp know, they will lay on me a grievous imputation, that the beauty of my fair wife can with Amphitrio more than can the charge of legions. As my coming was secret and concealed, so my return, which shall be short and sudden.
That I fear. Better I had to keep you, being here.
Nay, part we must, sweet lady, dry your tears.
You'll make my minutes months, and days seem years.
Your business, ere we part.
Only to pray, you will make haste, not be too long away. Farewell.
Farewell. Come, Ganymede, 'tis done, and fair Alcmena sped with a young son.
Oh, that Jupiter, he is so fertile. Right, so any thoughts on that little scene or on the entire part of the play that we've looked at today are very welcome.
Briony's got her hand up.
Briony.
Yeah, I know that early modern disguises are really, really good, guys, but she's just had a 3-day lovemaking session with somebody who is not her husband, and she still has no idea that it's not her husband.
I mean, he is a god this time, so he can do full-on supernatural magic with it. Birthmarks and sexual habits.
If he's a god, then again, sure, unless her husband's really, really good, she should be noticing a bit of a difference here. I don't know.
Eric, was that a hand?
Yeah, I was saying he got the power.
Yeah. And Lois.
Yeah, well, on that subject, the only thing I really remember about the Giraudoux play, which I saw a long time ago, is that when Jupiter and Alcmena are talking after this, and of course he's still pretending to be Amphitryon, he says something like, wasn't last night really fabulous? And she was saying, well, yes, but all our nights are really great. And he's really quite upset because he feels that, as a god, this should have been the great triumph of her life. And it turns out she's, really just as happy with her husband. And in fact, by the end of that play, I think Jupiter recognizes that their marriage is so sort of loving that, he's been defeated in a sense. I mean, he wanted to somehow, it was a kind of power thing for him.
Nice. Helen.
Yes, at some stage, I mean, before they go off to bed, he says that as they make love, he'll recount the rest of the war. So,
discourse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's enough to make any woman's knees weak, surely.
Well, it takes all sorts.
Shall we move on? Okay, Eric?
I was just going to say that it's hard to, after the whole scene that we just had with the two clowns, I kind of, it's hard to concentrate on, the more serious stuff, which makes me feel very sad, because it's actually really well written in terms of, how creepy and, how shady Jupiter is. But yeah, it's.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna sort of. Lynn, do you want to say something before I ask for final thoughts?
Yeah. I was just my reaction to this scene was, isn't this just exactly the conversation that Amphitryon and Alcmena would have? I have to go. My troops are going to accuse me of being derelict if I don't get back there. Oh, I'm going to miss you so much. It's just, he's still really occupying the character of Amphitryon. So he's still being very persuasive. It's just like, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know that this is not him. And to me, that's actually really sort of wrenching that here's a woman who loves her husband, which you don't see that much in early modern drama or in classical storytelling, and it's being so badly damaged and undermined by this guy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think to a certain extent that's also true of Ganymede's deception, the friendship with the Servingman and with poor old Socia himself, that they're so good at pretending to be other people that they really mess everybody up psychologically.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, I think. Oh, Rachael, do you have something to say first? Or is that a final thought?
Yeah, I was just going to say that this scene is feels like a little bit of a parallel from the one in the Golden Age. There was, with the Belledames that were so quick to seem to sell her out, that there's some loyalty here, and there's seems to be a lot healthier interpersonal relationships with everybody in this situation that's getting undermined here.
I think that's true. Final thoughts on the play so far. Let's start with Lynn.
Yeah, really all I have to say at this point is there are some localities, individual scenes that are dramatically so effective and would be fun to act and are really very charming and interesting. But there's still an awful lot about the story that's awfully troubling. The false accusations of sexual assault, the actual sexual assault. So yeah, I have very mixed feelings about it so far.
Mm-hmm. Briony?
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying it on the whole so far, because we know that the problematic stuff is going to be here, straight away. As soon as we know that there's like mythical references, we know there's going to be that. So to a degree, I can almost kind of, I don't know, it hasn't been hugely laboured either. Sometimes it's put forward in a way that is really, it makes you feel uncomfortable. And I mean, not that this is put in a way that's nice, but it hasn't been really laboured over just yet. But I absolutely love that last clown scene. That's real gold. Like, that was so much fun to read. And yeah, I'm really interested to see where it goes. I'm enjoying it more than the Golden Age thus far.
Yeah, I think that clown scene is one we're going to want to work on separately, just because it's an absolute delight. Eric, final thoughts?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, obviously the sort of, from the beginning of the play, it's kind of weird to jump to, like, it's like suddenly he remembers that Jupiter and Ganymede exist as these characters that need to sort of move the plot forward to a different hero and a different, sort of locality. And I mean, locality is in like place, sorry. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of, if you didn't see the sequel, it's still kind of garish in a way. But I love the clown scene. That was so much fun to read. Farewell, self.
Final thoughts, Rachael?
I just the Golden Age and the Silver Age, I don't know, we do have these, they bring up interesting talks in the room to think about, and they're kind of like thinking plays, and that this is I don't know, supposed to be some sort of history or mythological play, and that's what it brings up. these discussion of social issues is really interesting. And just Heywood's just so the last two scenes with or the last couple scenes with Jupiter and Ganymede, and those are really interesting scenes to play as an actor, to the way that they're moving and just written.
Mm-hmm. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I must admit, I'm not a fan of these sort of omnibus type pieces where effectively you've got a series of very short episodes or relatively short episodes that stretch over extended periods of time with just enough narrative material to try and provide some sort of dubious link between them. As was commented earlier, Homer actually is very well constructed as a speech line and has its own rhythm and works. The initial couple of sequences, the Bellerophon one and also the Pretus one, the first one, didn't really work for me. And as I mentioned, I'm sure I've seen very large chunks of that personation sequence that we've just done elsewhere, and I think possibly done slightly better.
Okay. Elizabeth, final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Alan. And also with what Briony said about the text, because Alan was just talking about how some of it kind of falls flat. And I think that, and we've kind of seen it before. We were talking earlier about this Marvel Cinematic Universe and how all these characters keep coming back for another edition, another sequel. And I think this play kind of suffers a little bit from sequelitis, because I think that a lot of it is premised upon the fact that you liked the Golden Age and you saw the Golden Age. And because I wasn't here for the Golden Age, I feel like I've missed some stuff. However, it does have some really lovely scenes and some really nice lines. I particularly liked Jupiter's monologue about how he was Amphitryon in the war. And I thought to myself, he's very convincing. He's, for a god, he's quite convincing. I'm actually interested to see where the play goes, because I feel like we've kind of got the boring part out of the way and we're going to get into the juicy parts of the play, hopefully. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see where it's going.
Okay, Lois, any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, Alan's term omnibus is quite good, I think, because it is a collection of all sorts of things from different sources that Heywood happens to be putting together. I mean, a lot of it is Ovid, but this last bit is pure Plautus, and it's so good. I mean, Plautus's play, that's why so many different people have done adaptations of it. And, I'm sure I could dig up pretty much the same scene in Molière and Dryden, for example. I can remember in Molière, there's a bit where I think Socia is confronted by the whole question of which Amphitryon is real. He just says the real Amphitryon is the one who's serving dinner and goes in to have dinner. And we may get a version of that later. I don't know. It depends on how much more of the story he spins out. But he's got a really good source here. And so, of course, he's using it. And that's one reason why this all seems so good. I'm slightly puzzled as to why Ganymede is in this, because I think in pretty well all the versions I know, it's Mercury who goes along with Jupiter, which makes a lot more sense. I mean, he's the deceiver and the liar and so on. And that's the kind of role he often plays. But for some reason, it's Ganymede instead. I don't know if there's going to turn out to be any reason for that.
Helen, final thoughts?
Yes, Mercury did the theft of the cup, didn't he? Even
yeah,
in this one.
noted.
Yeah, I'm a little puzzled by Heywood. I've done the editing for quite a few of the plays, but if we look at what he does, if we look back at the Elizabeth plays, If You Know Not Me, that we've just looked at recently, they are completely separate episodes, and you just get to know and love some character because he writes individual scenes beautifully, some individual scenes beautifully, when he isn't trying to rush through too much plot. And then suddenly you're into a completely different play on a completely different topic for a completely different audience at possibly a completely different time. I'm beginning to wonder if, in fact, what was actually played was nothing like what was actually published. And that just as we decided, or I decided anyway, that the way to deal with the two parts of If You Know Not Me is to chop the back end off the second one and stick it onto the first one, and then you've got two reasonable plays. I'm wondering if, in fact, there aren't a whole series of things chopped together into play-sized publications.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm reminded of what Lois said very much at the beginning of this session about Homer's introduction, where he tells us, oh, by the way, yeah, you all liked my first guide to Greek mythology. Here's some more Greek mythology for, ordinary English people. And so I keep thinking of his purpose as more educational than, at least with these plays, than entertainment.
My feeling is that schools in those, oh no, I'm wrong. Schools in those days did put on plays. There's a thought.
Okay, Eric.
I was just going to say that it's also interesting that he sort of goes in the middle. He's got the entr'actes where, you kind of change location. And it's almost like a commercial break for people to go to the bathroom. If you're not interested in this, move on. Or like sort of, yeah.
Yeah. Briony?
Yeah, I'm going right back to something because I was just having a look through the chat at bits and bobs that I'd missed. And this thing earlier about Charles's wane.
Yeah.
Because this is totally new to me. I'd never heard that before. But yeah, seemingly Alan is correct, and it's all to do with Charlemagne and all sorts. So I've fallen down a rabbit hole learning about random stuff.
Okay, I'm a bit confused by it, but I'm not sure that. Yeah, my confusion is an interesting thing to spend the rest of our minutes on. Alan.
Yeah, in the middle of it, we hit the phrase Charles's wane.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a bit of a discussion in the chat on it. I've just actually done a search on it. And yes, it is an alternative name for the constellation, which is known as the Plough or the Big Dipper in Northern Europe.
Yeah, I find it really, really odd because in the Golden Age, we got a version of the myth of the Great Bear and the Small Bear, which is what they're called in ancient Greek. So, yeah. Anyway.
Astronomy is variable.
Astronomy is variable and astrology even more so. I think that's a good note on us to end, especially as we're running out of time. So thank all of the wonderful readers, please, for their wonderful reading. And it's goodbye from us.
Bye.
As soon as they began to fight, I began to run.